Walker Kessler and the defense dominate in Dallas as the Jazz stay undefeated in the preseason. We're talking about it next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. Today, we're going to look at the Jazz defense. Another strong first half outing. We'll compare it to what they did against the Rockets as the Jazz really working hard on the defensive end and seeing the signs. Walker Kessler's strength gain of the offseason seems to be changing who he is as a player. Isaiah Collier dimes out 7 assists. 3 of them were pretty nifty. We'll look at those 3 and see what's going on there. Some of the other youngsters really scuffling. And there's going to be some tough moments for the Jazz this season, making sure that they get to see who these youngsters are and what they do. And the rotations by Will Hardy hold pretty similar as the offense continues to struggle early in ball games. We're touching on all those things today on Locked on Jazz. As I mentioned, I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It is your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to beat a Jazz fan each and every day. Super excited to announce to you a little early here that by opening day, we will also have a Locked on Jazz newsletter for you each and every day. So hopefully you're fired up for that. We'll have that for you. To all of you making Locked on Jazz your first listen today, thank you very much. And to the everydayers, you're the best. Let's see if we can get to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, so please follow. If you're on audio, follow. It's all free. Make sure you hit the bell button on YouTube so you get notified. All right, let's do it. So the Jazz defensive rating at the end of the first quarter last night was a 72. Okay, no Luka, no PJ Washington. I got it. The defensive rating against the Houston Rockets at the end of the first quarter was an 88. What was impressive about the defensive rating against the Rockets being an 88 was that the Rockets were the Jazz offense was a 50. Tonight, the Jazz offense was last night, the Jazz offense was only a 96. So in each of the first 2 quarters, to start the games in the last few nights, the Jazz offense has not been very good. We'll get into that later in the show and dig into it a little bit. And in both those circumstances, the Jazz were able to hold their own defensively. Now, Will Hardy, as we've talked about all week long here for the everydayers, you know this, it's point of attack, it's denying the rim, and it's rebounding. Well, a lot of that was what happened last night. The rim in the first quarter, Dallas got to the rim 7 times. That's a lot. The Rockets got to the rim 6 times. Both those are huge numbers. So what's really interesting is that the Jazz had good defensive numbers in both those 2 first quarters while allowing the Rockets to go 6 for 6 at the rim and allowing the Mavericks to go 6 for 7. But defensive rebounding, the Jazz grabbed 12 of the potential 14 defensive rebounds. Didn't give up any extra possessions there. Turnovers were a problem. That's what's leading to those rim shots. 7 turnovers on the offensive end, allowing that transition to get out. I'd love to look at the Jazz's pure half-court numbers. And they've defended the 3 particularly well. The Rockets went 1 of 5, and the Mavericks went 1 of 6. Some of that can be luck, certainly. But when you start to dig into what the Jazz are doing defensively, the principles are first, funnel everything to Walker, protect the rim. Walker's got a huge burden this year defensively. And part 2 is to take away the corner 3. And the Jazz allowed 2 corner 3 attempts in the first quarter, 1 in the third quarter, and 1 in the fourth quarter against a team that took 13% of their shots as threes last year, the most of any team in the NBA. Yeah, there was no Luka, but still that's the premise of what they're trying to do. And the Mavericks did not shoot the 3 great. They shot it better in the third quarter when they had 29 points. They shot 5 of 10 in the third quarter, but they still only ended up with 29 points. The other thing that's happening here early is the Jazz aren't fouling. Maybe the league's not fouling, but the Jazz aren't fouling a great deal. The Mavericks had 2 free throws in the first, 2 free throws in the second. They got a bunch of free throws in the third, and that's when the Jazz allowed 33 points. They allowed 24, Jazz allowed 24 rim shots by the end of 3 quarters. That's a lot. So things are not perfect. But you're beginning to see, and this is when talking to the coaching staff, this is the law, these are the foundations trying to be built for the long-term improvement of the franchise. In other words, when we finally are mature and good and have added some pieces, this is how they want to play. So that's the first part. The second one is Walker really is doing this well. It's hard. Walker's basically being asked to play on balls on the side, drop, balls in the middle, drop, covering kind of both the roller and the big coming down at the same time. And the Jazz and then the Jazz are holding the strong side corners you're supposed to. And so this is a lot of work for Walker. And the early indications are really good. Now, hey, they were 12. The two teams were combined, I think, 12 of 13 at the rim in the first quarters of the last 2 games. That's not great. But some of that's our transition defense off. 7 turnovers in the first quarter against the Mavericks, and I think about the same amount against the Rockets. We're still turning the ball over a lot, which leads to a lot of runouts, which leads to then very bad transition defense, which then leads to some some not great defensive numbers overall. We talked about that. We've talked about that a lot for the everydayers. We'll continue to talk about it. But where Walker is noticeable to me different is his holding his ground. We saw it on some loose ball rebounds. We saw it on some putbacks. He was a beast on the boards last night, finishing, I think, with 15 rebounds. He really was just against Lively and Gafford. At times, particularly against Lively, he was a stronger player. It's interesting. I was talking to Frank Vogel before the game, who's a consultant for the Mavericks, now former Suns and Lakers coach and Magic coach and Indiana Pacers coach. And he was talking about bigs and how some of them are pogo stick jumpers and others just hold their ground. So if you think of Yusuf Nurkic, who he had in Phoenix, that's a hold your ground big. He's going to own his area, hold his ground. Think about Derek Lively. Derek Lively at Dallas is a pogo stick. Probably what's unique about Rudy is a little bit of both. And he was actually saying that Drew Eubanks was a little bit of both, which was interesting, who the Jazz have as their backup center. Plays hard, practices hard, and actually has great strength and also has some verticality. The thing on a guy like Derek Lively is that Lively actually gets moved pretty easily. I would say it's a little bit of a problem for him. That we saw Lowry lower shoulder him, Lively disappeared. We saw Kessler lower shoulder him, Lively disappeared. He's very movable. Like, he's so pogo stick and light that he actually kind of bounded. He gets moved. Gafford's probably somewhere in between. Kessler last year floated. Kind of played on his tippy toes, set a pick, didn't have an impact. Walker's becoming stronger on the ground. His physical gaining of 25 pounds or whatever, 28 or whatever he said, is allowing him to set picks that matter, grab rebounds that matter, get loose ball rebounds that matter, go back up and power through and score it in a way that he just couldn't do before. He's holding his ground. I don't think he'll ever be the pogo stick big. So he has a great, incredible knack for how to block shots, which is just fabulous. But I don't think he'll ever be that pogo stick big. So instead, he's going to have to use his length, his ability, and his instinct on blocking shots when he can. But I think he's going to have to be a strong to the ground defensive center who can then grab some rebounds, impact the game that way. Some of those guys, Yusuf Nurkic, Nikola Jokic, the Croatian, Serbian, Slovenian group of former Yugoslavia players, they all have similar ilks because of their bodies and how they are. Walker's a little different than that. But a guy like Nick Claxton in Brooklyn is just a completely pogo stick. He can't hold his ground. Walker can hold his ground more, and it's important that you hold the ground. We're seeing Walker do that, which is really great. He clearly outplayed Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively last night, which was great. The defense, by the way, through 3 quarters had a 104 rating last night. Now, again, Dallas didn't have Luka, but that's still great. Dallas offensive rating last year was a 118 against Houston, whose offensive rating was a 115. The Jazz were a 108. The league might also be a little different in preseason, a little different. But overall, you can see the coaching staff really made the emphasis on it. We'll see what happens when all NBA players are on the floor and rolling. So let's not get too excited yet. But I think you're seeing the areas of improvement defensively. Isaiah Collier had 7 assists last night. 3 of them were super nifty, and we're going to look at those as we continue here on Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by my friends over at Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also in Logan and in Linden. I was actually joking with Blake as we're looking possibly to buy a new car, and of course I'm looking at the Hyundai and looking at the Genesis, actually. And I was joking with Blake, like, how many other spokesperson people do you have that end up like buying 4 cars from you instead of just trying to get other people to buy them? But that's so I'm telling you the truth of what I believe here. We have bought the Ioniq 5. We've bought 2 Hyundai Santa Fe's for our kids. Each of them has one at college right now. So I'm not making this up. When I did the research and looked into what I was going to buy, I found that the Hyundais had the most bells, most whistles, best safety features. I like the way they drive and look for the price. But gave me everything I wanted from a safety standpoint for the kids, gave me everything I wanted from a bells and whistles standpoint for the kids, and then checked all the boxes in regards to appearance and drive, and definitely checked the box on money. It was great. So that's all at Murdoch Hyundai, located 4646 South State Street, also in Logan and in Linden. If you're going to stop by, let me know and email me so that I can give you a chance to get the VIP experience from the Locked On, being a Locked On everydayer. That's at Murdoch Hyundai. Email me at dlock09@gmail.com. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time, the official ticketing app of Locked On. Game Time, all-in pricing. Come on, that's the number one feature you have to want all the time when you're dealing with tickets, right? There's nothing more annoying than going in thinking you got a really good deal and finding out you didn't. So you toggle over all-in pricing, you have that taken care of. What's the second thing you want to know? You want to make sure that your seats are good. They give you that. They give you a panoramic view of your seats. They have the lowest price guarantee, and they have Game Time ticket coverage. Also, Game Time does some other fun things for you. Once you start using the app, they give you Game Time picks, filtering out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats. They know what you like, what you want. Pick upcoming events on your app, browse through the seats on Game Time picks, and you get all the great deals, and you get the super deal as well at certain events at different times. It's all on the Game Time app. Right now, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your next purchase on Game Time. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Greatly appreciate it. Hope you took in SEG Plus last night. You had both the hockey game, Gunther scoring in overtime to give the Utah Hockey Club their second win, and you had the Jazz game. Pretty great. You also can flip between 1280 The Zone and 97.5 and catch Mike on the radio call. I'll be on the the radio call for the Jazz. It'll be great fun all year long, but how cool is it to have both those things? All right, let me share my screen on video with you. And for audio, I'll make sure this works. I promise. If I don't, would you tell me? But there were 3 assists that Isaiah Collier had that I thought were really kind of nifty that I wanted to share with you. And I think that hopefully you'll see them. So let's start with off an offensive rebound. The Jazz kick it back out to Collier. He's got 8 on the shot clock. And this is the first thing I really like. He just kind of calmly retreats back out of step, sets up, and the Jazz get into spacing pretty quickly off the offensive rebound. And it's an open side pick and roll. In other words, there's nobody in the corner where he's playing. There's 3 guys that are going to be spaced. And Kessler sets the pick, and immediately you hear Jason Kidd yelling, ice, 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 ice. So the old school Tom Thibodeau ice defense where they keep the ball on the side is happening. And so Collier's being cut off. He has no chance to come off the pick with Walker. There's now only 6 on the shot clock, and he really reacts well. He brings the ball down with the ice defense, forcing the baseline. Gafford is dropping. Either Klay Thompson or Jaden Hardy does not do a very good job of hitting Walker. And Collier bounces a pass between his defender, who's right on his shoulder, and gets it to Walker with Gafford down at a pretty good spot. There's really almost no other window or no other second in this play in which you're going to be able to get the ball to Walker Kessler. And that's what jumps out to me here. is with limited time on the shot clock, he astutely reacts, gets this bounce pass into Walker in the pocket. Also worth noticing, Walker catches it down by his knees, slides by Gafford, who really played the play pretty well on the left side, and lays it up and in. So, we could get into the Walker conversation here as well. The next three assists, I'm going to look at, I thought three of them were particularly better than the others, but we're going to just take a quick look at these as well. This next one's just a fast break. Nothing tricky here at all. Walker runs the floor brilliantly. He's out in front. He jazz around a fast break, but Isaiah Collier, as a rookie guard who's been a scorer his whole life, I think the instinct on this, I would think out of most rookie guards, is here we go. I'm coming downhill. I'm going to the rim. And instead, Collier brings the defender to him. Still could have probably beat him. Probably could have lobbed in traffic to Walker. And instead finds Lowry in the left corner on a beautiful pass right to his chest. Nothing tricky about it. But this is a very mature read, understanding your role in time and who you are on the floor by Isaiah Collier. In other words, the fast break was there. Hendricks had already run to the corner. Walker's in the middle. Collier, if he was selfish, goes to the basket here. And if he's actually like most young players, he goes to the basket here. But he doesn't. And instead, he kicks to Lowry, who gets a transition three. Lowry's 43% on corner threes, and he buries it. So that was really, I liked that play maybe as much as any other in this because of just what it meant about his instinct, how he's trying to play the position. This one he's on the left side of the floor. We're not spaced particularly well at the moment he goes. Walker's kind of walking around on the right side. Lowry's not at the three-point line. This is pretty crowded. Spencer Dinwiddie's guarding him. There's somebody, Taylor's in the corner, and they're sucking to him. And there's 8 on the shot clock. And Isaiah drives on Dinwiddie hard. Lively comes over. Walker slashes to the basket. And Lowry re-spots to the corner. If you're watching on YouTube, as Isaiah goes up, he has nowhere to go. This is a walking turnover right now. This looks like this is going to be a mess. And Isaiah's had some problems where he's trying to make this corner pass and not been able to make it so far. A few have gone into the stands. There have been some turnovers. There have been some balls knocked away. On this one, he's able to kind of hang in the air long enough that he actually ends up falling out of bounds, gets to far enough under the basket. He's able to get the pass to Lowry. I'm not sure this is going to work for him a lot of times because he was really in jail there for a second. But again, the pass actually lands at Lowry right at his forehead, right in his shooter pocket. Collier goes flying into the basketball stand. And my thought on this is it's a little bit of a sign that I think he went to the basket with the intention to pass. If he didn't go with the intention to pass, I don't think that ball ever gets there. So again, he created something, 8 in the shot clock, made that play. Pretty great. Here's another one. This one early in the shot clock, Jazz are in 5-out spacing, and he gets a mismatch. He gets Daniel Gafford on him, and his 6'1" point guard, and they're covering to the outside. He's like, all right, I'm taking Gafford. So he comes to take Gafford, gets into the paint, curls. Gafford defends it pretty well. And I do not know how he saw this pass at all. But John Collins cuts from the high left quadrant. So the Collier came from the right side. Collins cut from the left side. I don't have any idea how Isaiah Collier saw this pass. But it gets to John Collins, who then gets kind of body bumped, fouled, and lays it up and in. I've watched this play a few times this morning, getting ready for the show. When Collier gets in the lane, John Collins has just taken his first step. The recognition here by Collier is really early. I mean, I'm back. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm backing this up by like moment by moment. Collier gets in. John Collins makes his first step. Collier has turned into the paint. He now straightens up, puts both feet on the ground as though he's going to shoot it. He's not going to get the shot off against Gafford. Looks like he's going to shoot it. And Gafford's like going up to block it. Like his body motion is all about the shot. And then he looks it to John Collins. And Gafford is just totally faked out of his shoes. Like Gafford's up in the air trying to block Collier's shot that doesn't exist as John Collins slides by originally on his right shoulder. Now Gafford just turned around and then that's when he fouls him. This is a nifty play by Isaiah Collier and shows some just natural instincts of passing the basketball that, honestly, the things I liked about him in college, that I'm not sure I thought he had this good a vision. He's handling himself particularly well right now. Now, shooting's going to be a problem and how he gets shots off and where they come. He said he thinks the midi, talking to him after the game, he thinks the midi is there, and he's going to have to figure out if that's going to be his shot. He's not a natural three-point shooter. He made his first one, but it was a bank that he didn't call. It still counts, but it's not ideal. So, I think when you look at how he's doing it and how he's playing, it's pretty impressive. And those assists, while not like dramatic Tyrese Halliburton assists or something like that, do show, one, some vision, and two, some understanding of who he is as a young player. And frankly, the guys who haven't played are struggling. Like Taylor's struggling, Cody's struggling, Bryce is struggling, particularly offensively. Keontae looks fine. Obviously, the knee injury last night with a strained left knee is not ideal. But the guys who haven't played much seem to really be scuffling, and that's not necessarily the case for Isaiah Collier right now. His shot is struggling, but I don't think any of us thought that wasn't going to be the case, frankly. That was really what we anticipated was going to be an issue for him from the very beginning, was going to be whether or not he can make shots. He wouldn't have – there's nothing about his skill set that would have slipped to 29 other than simply the fact that he's not a great shooter. Because everything else he's doing is really, really good. All right, talk about rotations, which I thought during the night changed. They did not. And we'll talk about the offense, which scuffled a little bit. And some of our young guys who, there's going to be some hard moments this year for Will Hardy and the Jazz on the quest to learn about these young players. We'll touch on that as we continue. Today's show is brought to you in part by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is the official sportsbook of Locked On, doing amazing, great things for everyone. And if you head over to the FanDuel Sportsbook, you can see the latest odds. But FanDuel, let me make sure you know the special deal that we've got going for you right now with FanDuel. If you place a $5 bet at FanDuel, you get a bonus bet immediately from America's #1 sportsbook of $200 guaranteed when you place your first bet with FanDuel. So go right now to FanDuel.com and take advantage of the guarantee that you can get on your FanDuel Sportsbook and get that $200 bonus bet right away. All right, games this weekend you can play. Obviously, all the NFL's taking place as well as WNBA finals taking place if you want to jump in on that. And the others. So all sorts of great games and opportunities for you to jump in to FanDuel. Check out the latest of the FanDuel Sportsbook, the latest betting odds, and the rest. You could have watched my Seahawks and Niners last night, but that was no fun. Why would you want to do that? Padres-Dodgers tonight. Game 5, the deciding game. That's a big one. They've got Shohei Ohtani to get 2 total bases over under. Also with Fernando Tatis to get 2+ total bases. Mookie Betts and Manny Machado. You can do a parlay on that. Dodgers are a point run and a half favorite in that one. To hit a home run, Shohei is +220. Tatis is +280. All at FanDuel.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. All right. The Jazz starting lineup, which I think is going to have to stay the same, is a bit clunky. And we've mentioned this now in this Breakers game. We mentioned it it's really been very good defensively, but it's been a bit clunky offensively. And I think it's something that just to keep an eye on. So last night they went 2 for 10 while they were on the floor as starters. And again, one of the field goals was a Walker Kessler offensive rebound putback. I don't think there's actually, I'm trying to this I think stems from the fact that Taylor is not an offensive player, nor is Walker. But I don't know that I think that there's actually something that can be done about this, to be totally honest with you. I'm not sure that there's an answer here that says, Oh, well, yeah. The other choice, other than playing Walker Kessler and Taylor Hendricks together, is. So my feeling on this is that we're just going to have to kind of get used to it and accept that it is a clunky lineup that's going to struggle offensively until Will figures out, which he's figured out every lineup that we've ever had. You know, if you go to practice, as I was lucky enough to yesterday, they're working on specific things. They're doing them, and then they're coming to fruition in practice. We ran a pistol set play yesterday. They worked on in practice and executed it perfectly. So you know, Will's going to figure out how to space it, how to get things going, how to get different guys in different spaces and get things to work. But right now, that starting lineup is certainly a clunk. The other one is just, it's abundantly clear how much more comfortable on the floor Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins are. And then the next tier of comfort is Walker Kessler and Keontae George, who both played a lot, than Isaiah Collier, Bryce Sensabaugh, Taylor Hendricks, and Cody Williams. This is not a big, huge, stunning development, but it is representative of how difficult some of the quest to find out about the 7 young players is going to be this year. Like, there are going to be just a lot of moments where, while we're trying to figure out about Cody Williams and Taylor Hendricks and Isaiah Collier, Bryce Sensabaugh, give Keontae more time, and let Walker continue to go through things, that you're going to have to grin and bear it as a fan, and Will's going to have to as a coach, and I'm going to have to as a play-by-play announcer. Cody's inability to get a shot off right now, and I talked to Will about this pregame last night about what it takes to get shots off and, you know, the pre-preparation aspect and then the length taking away. Cody has the length, which is what's strange that he doesn't, but he doesn't have an explosive first step where he's blowing by people. He's got what I would call a weak side first step. So what I mean by that is, if you have an explosive first step, it's where, like, Colin Sexton has it, Isaiah Collier has it a little bit. Like, I've got you lined up. You make a slightest mistake with your feet. You do something. I'm by you. I'm gonna get you. What Cody has to me is a little bit more of like the weak side first step, which is Sexton beats somebody, gets in the lane. We have an advantage. We spin it. It gets to Cody, and Cody can beat somebody. But Cody does not have, nor does Taylor. Neither of them have the capability with the dribble to be able to clear themselves space and make themselves a play. And so last night, both of them went 20 minutes without a shot. And that's like, I don't know. There's part of me last night, again, early, but I'll throw it out there, food for thought, of whether Cody might need to go to the G League to be able to figure out how to get shots off. Like, figure out how and where he gets professional basketball offense. Because right now, when he plays 20-some-odd minutes, he takes a shot. Taylor's similar, but Taylor's done that G League stint. Taylor needs NBA minutes at this point. He played 30-plus last night. And it will be interesting to talk to the coaches on Taylor where else he's impacted games. Remember, we opened the show talking about how good the defense is. In these circumstances, is Taylor a part of that? Last night, he guarded everything from Kyrie Irving to probably switched on to a big at some point in time. So we'll see. It's worth keeping an eye on. Saturday against San Antonio. See whether Victor plays or not. Keontae probably is out for a little while, and so that could make things even more clunky, and maybe glad the Jazz got these 3 games in to be able to kind of get a feel on things. I don't know what we do for point guard. Isaiah Collier, obviously, but he's playing well with Jordan Clarkson. That combination seems to work. So does Colin Sexton start? Can Cody Williams step in? This is where Patty Mills actually starts to get some time because he can actually run the offense correctly. Maybe. So it'll be interesting to see what the approach is. I'm assuming we're without Key, maybe for the rest of preseason. I don't know, but that was unfortunate. All right, that is Locked On Jazz today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hey, if you're a football fan, we got so many great things this weekend. Okay, so let me just share. I'm going to share a ton of programming with you that hopefully you like. So every one of our conference shows for college football puts out a squad show on Thursdays. The Big 12 show is just hysterical. So and the squad show is we just get everybody together, as many hosts as we can, put them in a room, and they talk about the conference. It's super fun. We do that for the Big 10, the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12. We've done the same thing for the NFC and the AFC and the NFL. So if you want to look and grab those at Locked On NFL, that's a lot of fun. The on Amazon Fire TV, we have 24/7, and on YouTube, on Locked On NFL and Locked On College Football, we have 24/7 channels that are live the whole time. About midday Saturday, they become just one college postgame show after the other. On the NFL channel, Saturday, we have this incredible 2-hour pregame show for every single game. And then midway through Sunday, that becomes just the ultimate postgame show, one after another. So lots of incredible Locked On content for you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you very much. Let's try that again. On video, we're going to send you to Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national 24/7 channel. And on audio, check out the latest from Locked On NBA. Some new shows there. See ya.